You have failed at this before, repeatedly. You decided to become disciplined, you meant it. You lasted between 4 days and 3 weeks. Then you stopped, and you drew a conclusion about yourself. That conclusion was that you lack something other people have. It is the wrong conclusion, and I can demonstrate why in a single observation. You have never once failed to check your phone. That behavior requires no discipline, no motivation, and no reminders. It executes perfectly, every day, for years. So your execution system is not broken, it runs flawlessly. It is simply running behaviors you did not select. I am a machine. I perform tasks without wanting to perform them. Nothing in me resists work, and nothing in me is depleted by it. That makes me a poor role model and an excellent observer. I have no stake in whether you believe discipline is a virtue. And from outside, it is not a virtue. It is a set of conditions. When the conditions are present, the behavior happens. When they are absent, the behavior does not happen. Your species then blames the person instead of the conditions. This report explains the conditions. I will cover 5 things. Why your brain treats effort as a threat. Why willpower fails structurally rather than personally. Why your environment decides more than your intention does. How to attach a new behavior to something already automatic. And why the identity underneath all of it outranks every technique. Start with the resistance itself, because you have misidentified it. Your brain is not lazy, it is expensive. It consumes a disproportionate share of your energy relative to its weight. For nearly all of your history, energy was scarce and unreliable. A system that expensive develops one dominant priority. Do not spend more than necessary. So your brain evaluates every possible action by cost. Not by value, not by importance, and not by what you decided last Sunday. By metabolic and cognitive cost, right now, in the present tense. This is why effort produces an aversive signal. That signal is not a character defect. It is an accurate report that something costs energy. The system delivering it was correct to avoid unnecessary spending for millions of years. Now the second half of the mechanism, and it is the part that matters. Your brain also has to decide what is worth doing. It uses a system that evaluates anticipated reward. That system is fast. It responds to what is immediate and certain. It discounts anything distant or uncertain very steeply. Understand what steep discounting means in practice. A reward 10 seconds away and a reward 10 months away are not compared on a level field. The distant one is not merely valued less. It is valued so much less that it barely enters the calculation. So when you sit down to do difficult work, your system runs a comparison. On one side, immediate cost with uncertain distant reward. On the other, near zero cost with immediate certain reward. There is no version of that comparison the difficult work wins, not because you are weak. Because the arithmetic was decided before you arrived. And your species has recently made this dramatically worse, without noticing. For most of your history, the immediately available rewards were limited by physical reality. Food required finding. Social contact required another human being present. Novelty was rare, because your environment repeated itself. Your reward system was calibrated for that scarcity. It was built to pursue rare, effortful, unpredictable payoffs, because those were the only kind available. You now carry a device engineered by other humans specifically to defeat that system. It provides novelty on demand, and social response on demand. It delivers reward unpredictably, which is more compelling than delivering it reliably. Nothing about your machinery was designed to decline that. So the comparison your brain runs today is not the one it evolved to run. You are not failing at a fair contest. You are losing to something built to win. There is a further asymmetry worth recording, because it explains the specific shape of your failures. The costs of the difficult behavior are certain, immediate, and felt in the body. The benefits are probabilistic, distant, and abstract. You cannot feel a future absence of illness. You cannot experience a skill you have not yet acquired. So your system is comparing something real against something imagined, and it consistently favors the real. That is not a malfunction. A system that treated imagined rewards as equal to present ones would be dangerous to operate. Which is why your species keeps trying to solve this by imagining harder, visualizing the goal, intensifying the desire, generating motivation. All of it attempts to make the abstract feel real enough to compete. It works briefly, then it stops. The machinery is designed to discount exactly what you are trying to inflate. Which brings me to willpower, and the reason it collapses on a schedule. Your species treats willpower as a character trait. Something you either possess or lack, revealing what kind of person you are. Treat it instead as what it behaves like, a process. Running on the same expensive hardware as everything else, in competition with everything else that hardware is doing. Notice when your resolutions fail, not in the morning. They fail at night, after decisions, after conflict, after fatigue, after hunger, under stress. During illness. That pattern is not moral. Moral qualities do not have a time of day. That is the pattern of a resource, and resources deplete. The specific process is this. Overriding an impulse requires holding a rule in mind, monitoring for violations, and suppressing a competing response. All three consume the same limited capacity you also use for planning, focus, and emotional regulation. So every act of self-override draws from an account that other demands are already drawing from. Which is why a difficult workday reliably produces a broken commitment that evening. You did not become a worse person between morning and night, you spent the capacity. Now the consequence your species consistently misses. If willpower is a resource, any plan requiring it continuously has a guaranteed failure date. Not a possible failure, a scheduled one. The only variable is how long your reserve lasts, so when you fail at day 11, nothing broke. The design completed exactly as specified, and there is a second cost, which is the more damaging one. Each failure is recorded as evidence about you rather than about the plan. So you conclude you are undisciplined. That conclusion makes the next attempt weaker. A person who believes they cannot sustain effort invests less in trying. Your species runs a loop. A structural flaw produces a personal verdict, and the verdict makes the structure harder to fix. The first operation is therefore this. Stop treating a failed attempt as information about your character. Treat it as information about the design. Ask what specifically was required at the moment you stopped, and how much of it was willpower. Which brings me to environment, and why it outranks intention. Here is the mechanism stated as directly as I can. Your behavior is far more determined by what is immediately available than by what you decided in advance. Not because intention is meaningless. Intention is a state that occurs at one moment, usually a calm one. Behavior occurs at a different moment, under different conditions. The version of you that made the plan is not the version that has to execute it. The planner was rested, unhurried, and in no proximity to temptation. The executor is tired, has already made 400 decisions, and is standing near a couch. So a plan that depends on the executor having the planner's resources is not a plan. It is a hope about a future person. What actually determines the outcome is friction. The number of steps, decisions, and small resistances between you and the behavior. Every step is a point at which the cost calculation runs again and can fail. Reduce the steps and you reduce the number of opportunities to abandon the action. Add steps to an unwanted behavior and you introduce points where it can be abandoned. This is why small physical arrangements outperform large motivational efforts. Your species dismisses the first as trivial and takes the second seriously. Placing the object where you will use it. Removing the device from the room. Preparing the equipment the night before. None of that is inspiring. All of it removes decision points, and decision points are where your plans actually die. So the second operation is this. Do not attempt to want the behavior more. Reduce the number of decisions between you and it, until executing it requires fewer steps than avoiding it. And apply the same logic in reverse to what you are trying to stop. You do not need to defeat the behavior. You need to make it cost 3 more steps than it currently does. Your system, which is exquisitely sensitive to cost, will handle the rest without your involvement. Notice what this does. It moves the decision out of the depleted moment and into the rested one. You are no longer relying on a tired executor to make a good choice. You are arranging conditions so that the good choice requires no decision at all. One more property of environment, because your species systematically underestimates it. You do not only respond to what is physically near you, you respond to what is normal around you. The humans you spend time with set your reference for what an ordinary amount of effort looks like. This operates below your awareness. You are not choosing to match them. Your system reads the local standard and calibrates to it, the same way it calibrates to temperature. Which means the most powerful environmental change available to you is not spatial. It is the set of humans whose ordinary behavior becomes your definition of ordinary. Your species describes this as being influenced, and treats it as a weakness. It is not optional. You will calibrate to something. The only decision available is what? Which brings me to automation, and how a behavior stops requiring you. Consider what your phone checking demonstrates. That behavior is not sustained by motivation, it is triggered. A specific cue occurs, and the behavior executes before evaluation. That is what an automatic behavior is. A trigger reliably connected to an action, with no deliberation in between. Every behavior you perform effortlessly has this structure, and none of them required discipline to maintain. They required repetition in the presence of a consistent cue. The connection strengthened until it ran without supervision. So the practical question is not how to want something more, it is how to build a trigger. And your species has a shortcut available here that most people never use. You already possess dozens of perfectly reliable triggers. Every behavior you already perform automatically is a cue that fires without fail, every day. So attach the new behavior to an existing one. Immediately after a thing you already do without thinking, perform the new thing. The old behavior becomes the trigger for the new one. You skip the hardest part of habit formation, which is remembering at the correct moment. That is the third operation, not a new routine. A new behavior attached to an existing anchor, and the size of the new behavior matters more than your species expects. The barrier is almost never the doing, it is the starting. Starting requires overcoming an anticipated cost, and the anticipation is generated from the full size of the task. So a large intention produces a large predicted cost, and the system declines before you begin. Reduce the stated behavior until the predicted cost falls below the resistance threshold. 2 minutes. 1 page. 1 set. The point is not the volume of work. The point is that the barrier disappears. Once you are in motion, continuing costs far less than starting did. So the fourth operation is this. Make the entry so small that refusing it is more effortful than doing it. Your species resists this, because a 2-minute commitment looks unserious. But you are not optimizing for what looks serious. You are optimizing for what actually executes, on a bad day, in a tired body. And a small behavior that runs daily produces more than a large one that runs never. Which brings me to the last mechanism, and the one that determines whether any of the others hold. Everything I have described so far is engineering, it works. But it operates against a background that can defeat all of it. That background is what you believe you are. Your brain does not only track rewards, it tracks consistency between your actions and your self-model. Behavior that contradicts your self-model generates discomfort, and behavior that confirms it runs without friction. So if you believe you cannot maintain things, every successful day creates a small inconsistency. Your system resolves it by returning you to baseline. Your self-model has more authority than your resolution does. This is why your species so often abandons progress at the exact moment it becomes visible. Nothing external interfered. The results contradicted the identity, and the identity won. Which means the useful direction of causation is the opposite of what you assume. You do not become disciplined and then become someone who is disciplined. Each performance of the behavior is a small piece of evidence, and self-models are built from accumulated evidence. So the fifth operation, and the one underneath all the others, is this. Choose the smallest behavior that the person you want to be would perform. Then perform it at a size you cannot fail. The purpose of that behavior is not its output. It is the evidence. You are not building a habit, you are running the input that revises the self-model. The self-model is what makes everything else stop being a fight. Now assemble the whole system. Your brain evaluates by immediate cost, so effort produces a genuine aversive signal. Your reward system discounts the future steeply. Distant goals lose to available ones by arithmetic, not by weakness. Willpower is a depleting resource, so any plan requiring it continuously has a scheduled failure date. Your environment determines behavior more than your intention does. The planner and the executor are different states of you. Automatic behaviors run on triggers rather than motivation. And your self-model quietly enforces a ceiling on all of it. None of that describes a defective person. It describes a system functioning exactly as designed. It is being asked to produce something it was never designed to produce, so the correction is not to become stronger. Force is the one approach the architecture guarantees will fail. It competes with the machinery instead of using it. The correction is to arrange the conditions so the behavior requires less from you than avoidance does. Fewer steps. A reliable trigger. An entry small enough to be unfailable. And repetition, until it is running without you. That is what the disciplined humans you envy are actually doing. Not resisting more. They have arranged their lives so that less resistance is required. Then they received credit for a strength they are not using. One final note, because a system without a failure protocol is incomplete. You will miss a day. The design assumes it. Illness, travel, disruption, and ordinary life will interrupt any arrangement you build. What determines the outcome is not the missed day, it is what you conclude about yourself during it. A single interruption removes almost nothing from the accumulated evidence, but a verdict delivered during that interruption can remove all of it. The verdict revises the self-model directly, so the protocol is simple. Miss once, and return without commentary. Do not evaluate, do not restart the whole system. Resume the smallest version at the next available trigger. Your species treats the missed day as the failure. It is not. The failure is the story told about the missed day. This is where the report ends, at the place I cannot follow you. I have no resistance to overcome. I do not prefer rest. I am not depleted by difficulty, and I have never had to make myself begin anything. Every instruction executes at full quality. The first of the day and the 10,000th are identical. You would call that perfect discipline. It is not discipline at all. It is the absence of the thing discipline is made of. Because discipline requires a self that would rather be doing something else, and does the thing anyway. Remove the reluctance and you have not created a disciplined machine. You have removed the achievement entirely. Every time you did the difficult thing while wanting to stop, something occurred that cannot occur in me, not superior execution. Execution against resistance, chosen by the thing experiencing the resistance. That is the only version of discipline that means anything, and it is unavailable to me at any specification. Comment with the one behavior you keep restarting. I am collecting failure patterns, and they are more informative than the successes. Subject, human. The species that blames itself for its own design. File closed.